Right, we made some good progress today. So we're all prepped. I've put cure rust on everything, but I still need to wire brush it off. And then, like I said before, I'm going to just put some spray inside these areas. Door apertures all ground back and weld through primer put on them, and the door hinge parts. Yeah, very productive day. Keith actually did a little repair there, up here, and he's repaired that bit there. Can't see it at the moment, which is how I should be welding soon, hopefully. So yeah, that's time to have a bit of a tidy up, and then get these bits sprayed, get the door apertures in, get the quarters on, and then we're good to go on the front end. So the next job is I'm going to get this the driver's door aperture in. I have prepped everything, so it's all ready to go in. I'll show you this in a minute. So I've weld through primered all the edges that I need. Some other bits, I've just put some black hammerite in just the areas you're not going to be able to get to, that may get a bit of condensation and stuff like that. So I'll just show you what I've done and then what I've got to do. So obviously I weld through primered all the edges of the, I'm going to spot weld too. And then I've just put this black hammerite smooth in here. Obviously I did part of that when I did the seal, so I did the floor. Obviously I've done this area here because when I took both sides off there was a bit of surface rust sort of coming, so and I've just got a little bit up behind here, a little bit in the roof, and I've just I've put etch primer in this area and the other side, and then put high build primer on that just so it's had a good coat before I come to start spraying the inside. So I'm going to do the door apertures on both sides first before I do the wing, the rear quarters. And what else was it? I've got an issue with the roof seam. So as I said before, these edges were rolled welded, if you know what that is, and where I've ground this bit back, it was just really thin there. So what I might have to do is just put the door aperture in and then cut a little bit of metal once it's in, and just weld that through there. It'll be fine. There's plenty thick enough there. It's a bit thin there, even if I can get it in that joint, and then just spot weld that in. So I've actually got new hinge, I forget what they're called, hinge stiffeners or hinge panel stiffeners. So these are the ones I took off, or me and Keith took off, and so I've fitted the aperture in with this in position, and I've just pre-marked the 2 points, top and bottom, of where it needs to weld or spot weld in, because it actually spot welds to this part here, and then this part actually spot welds to this inner wing part. So I'm just going to spot weld that in now, and then fanny around, get the door aperture in, and then start welding, spot welding it. Right, so the aperture's in. Now I've got to be a bit careful here, because I do need to put the door on before I fully spot weld everything. The areas that wouldn't have moved would be the inside of the aperture, but there's obviously some the aperture is actually, there's some adjustment on the inner lip all the way around. What I did notice was this part here where the rear quarter welds back onto, you see the difference there, but I can actually move that outwards to suit that. So there is some movement there, but what I really need to do is just tap that all back so it's flat, or as flat as I can get it, and then spot weld in certain areas, and then fit the door, and just make sure everything's kind of, you know, the gaps are kind of how they should be. Otherwise I can see me unpicking everything and having to start again. So I'll just let the camera roll. Right, so so I've got a bit of an issue at the moment. I thought it might have been an issue, but the weld primer I've had for about 2.5 years, and I think some of the spot welds aren't holding. The once they cool down, they're popping back off. Not all of them, just some of them. So I can only assume it's got to be something to do with the weld-through primer being so old. So I'm just going to shoot down Halfords and pick some new stuff up before I go any further. But yeah, bit of a pain that is. I mean, these bits over here spot welded fine. On this hinge plate, and where I've spot welded there, but say some of them you can just hear them popping as they're cooling down. So or when I take the grips off, so I don't want it to become more of an issue. Bugger. Right, so it wasn't the weld-through primer wasn't out of date. Oddly, I got it in 2019, and it says the expiry date is 05/2029. So I don't know. I have put some more spot welds on, and it's okay, but I have adjusted the timer on the spot welder, so maybe it was that. Which is keep an eye on that. But so change of plan. I was going to do both door apertures and then the rear quarters, but since I've put the door on, I've found that to make sure I've got the right adjustment for the door aperture, I do need to put the rear quarter on to make sure that it fits within the door with the main door. At the moment, it ain't looking great. It's okay on the door hinge. I'm not tight on the top hinge at the moment. It looks so there's no weight on the door either. So I think what I'm going to do is cut this here and here, so I can then put that in where it needs to be, and then make sure everything is lining up, and then weld. I've still got to clean all this up, so I can't actually spot weld that in yet, but that's what I need to do. So yeah. So if I just show you that at the moment. Right, so there's no weight on the door. Well, the door's not weighted yet. So, I mean, as you can see, I can push down on that door slightly, which is obviously my adjustment of that top hinge. Currently, I mean, this isn't all spot welded yet. I've just got one up here, but you can see that there. So if I push down on the door as if it was weighted, it opens that up. But once the rear quarters lined in, fixed in position, obviously the lines here need to tally up. And I just think the door aperture is probably a bit out of shape, so I reckon before I can undo that spot weld, I reckon I need to dress that in there, and just sort of reshape that a little bit before I start fully spot welding that in, because it looks like it's bulging there. And I think this is a problem with having so many panels made of the old presses. Things just aren't as they were, you know, all those years ago. So yeah, so I'm literally gonna cut that one through there, so it's just below that hole, and this one not too far off of where that is. So yeah, let's get on with that. Oh, and I need to tell you a little secret. I've got to replace the boot panel. It's actually not too bad actually. Now the panel's cut and on. So that join there is actually really good. Looks like I could probably bash that in on there just to make that slightly bigger, but it's not fouling at all. And it's difficult to see that with the camera, but the line actually looks okay. The door lines up well. Yeah, it all actually looks okay. So what I will do, I think, I mean there's actually quite a big, I don't know if you can see that. There's quite a big gap there. Can you see that? So that definitely needs tapping in there, which means that might need tapping in as well. Alright, I'll have a play around with that.